Okay, so welcome everyone for this talk that's organized by Blip in Time. So this would be a showcase that's going to happen on the 1st to 14th April at Jurong Regional Library. And it's a set of 1 of 10 programs that we are having in order to, I guess, explain why we are actually doing the showcase itself. So without revealing too much, I'm gonna let Veronyka tell us about the concepts as well as today's topic, which is democratizing art spaces. All right, so all over to you, Veronyka.
Hey, hello, hi everyone, I'm Veron. And there are 12 of us, 12 artists doing this show called A Blip in Time at the Jurong Library from the 1st to the 14th of April. So how this exhibition came about was that luckily we have the support of the National Library and its Make It space that has given 12 artists who have never worked with technology the chance to learn something new. So we've been doing like 3D printing, coding, projection mapping, and then trying to see what it means to our own art practices. All of us come from very different types of practices, and actually today you will meet like of course 4 of us, which is me, and then of course there's Jennifer here, and Jessie, and finally Eunice. Okay, so without further ado, okay, I've been nominated to go first anyway. So yeah, let me show you and just talk a little bit about my practice very shortly. Okay, I haven't been an artist for very long to begin with, but I think it's been a real journey that I've taken with these ladies here, and I have started. I do installation art. I've done digital art. I've done performance art, and you know, it's really an exploratory journey for me. And it starting with the first show that I did with called Backstage at the Stanford Art Center. So I started working with clay and to think about the issue of the environment. I think this and that is one of the very big things about my practice is that I am quite interested in the environmental and social issues, and because I used to be an advocate and an activist before this, and I think it does influence my work a lot. So this work that I did is called we only have 12 years left. I think it came from the Harvard Business Review title that says that really, if we do not turn our world around within 12 years, it becomes, whatever's happening becomes irreversible. And to me, that is very devastating. So after working with that, I was, the project was picked up, and it's actually still up for a year plus now at the Dalam Gallery in Kampong Glam that showcases this work called the 12 years. Yeah. And I also have done performance, yeah, and worked, and I'm also part of Changgawu's performance group. And through that, you know, I really learned about many things, like the energy that we bring into projects. I'm very interested in that. Rather than the physical artwork at the end of it, it's really about the process and the people that come in and out of the project, and how they influence me, and how we influence each other. And yeah, that's why I'm really, it's been great to have been part of this group called the Fertile Art Refinery, where it's a group of women. We are a collective of women artists, and it's been quite a journey with them. So I'm not going to take up too much time. I'm just going to run through some of the projects that I've done. Yes, I've painted a dustbin also in Kampong Glam. Yeah. Some of the performance work. I also did a work for Coda that was part of, during COVID, it was a charity sale to benefit the migrant workers. So that was one of the works that got sold. Right. Later, we'll also be talking much more about the Fertile Art Refinery, where we did a 360 degrees exhibition during the pandemic. So a lot of these works happened during the pandemic, and it was really my own response to it. And I see that I think the COVID has affected a lot of us, and the repercussions we are still dealing with it. And I think a lot of the artists in the blip of time, also you see a lot of their works responding to the COVID and yeah, personal feelings about it. So okay, that's me. And I'll hand it over to Jessie now. Yeah.
Is it like me? Yeah. Yes, it's me. Maybe she can sit there though.
Oh, you want to sit here and direct your own?
No, it's okay.
It's okay? Okay. So I'll share your Instagram page now. So you just direct me what you want to show. Yeah, something salacious.
Nice. Oh my goodness. No, for my okay, my one is, I think we have to go to my artist page. Can hear her. Can you guys hear me? That's another one.
Okay. I'm in the wrong page. Okay.
Okay, just a brief introduction. That for me is I ventured into art late because for over 20 years, right? I mostly into drawing, but then after that, that's why I've given a lot of opportunities now here, together with Veron. She actually asked to collaborate on this, so I'm actually quite honored to be part of it. And for my own practice, I'm actually venturing more into body works, which is also dealing with the interior complexity of spatial awareness within our own body, but also a reaction to the art spaces around Singapore, and also more on situationist awareness. So for this, is a lot of exploration. As you can see some of the central streets there, because it's also part of the body itself. I think everyone should be aware, socially aware of their own body as well, especially when we are women. And then, and also we need to know and be self-confident. I think this is what I think, because there's a lot of girls and women actually out there, they are actually still confused and have a lot of questions on our own body. So I venture into the bodily works a lot, and as you can see from my past works, I also deal with architecture, interested in architecture as well as and spatial awareness around. So I like to take photographs. That's my own work. Photographs around, and then because like we are staying in Singapore, there's always like new buildings being built. So all buildings were being torn down, and also and we are starting to face a lot of greenery, nature being paved away for all the new buildings. So that's why I wanted to actually do this photage, and then you see that there's actually a beauty in buildings and also the texture that is around. So actually, yeah, that's it for me. No, sorry, it's a bit boring.
No, come on.
But I'm still exploring things around.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Start. You can start talking while I call up your.
I asked her to call out my website.
Okay.
Shall I sit there, Ron?
Yes, you
can.
can.
I want to keep my face big.
Yeah, sure. How you big when you when you are sharing screen? So you want to share screen or you want to be big?
Up to you. Can you all see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
You sit down first.
How to share screen though?
So you go here, right? And then, wait. Hey, what is this? Let me ask.
Okay, maybe you can share screen and just share screen.
Okay.
Share it.
Yes, sharing. Okay,
Alright.
share.
Oh, who's that?
Who's that now?
Who's that? How people,
Yeah.
same old suspects.
I think Erica was in there.
Oh,
Can you, hey bro, you're wearing the same dress, right? Can you scroll down a bit?
oh, that's me.
No, more.
More.
Alright,
Okay, this one?
so, yeah, so I think this goes on a slide. So, hello everyone, I'm Eunice and I am an artist, but I'm studying at NTU as well, candidate for PhD at my first year.
Nothing.
And
It's the coffee, don't mind me.
basically what I've been doing is more towards sort of like a participatory approach to art making. And it has kind of evolved with the inclusion of digital technology as some sort of participatory and also a way to democratize art making. So that's Veron. Is you. So I want to thank LLB and I want to thank Veron and Jen and for giving us a lot of opportunities. So we have a collective called FA for the Art Binary. It's a women-centric platform, and what we want to do is sort of give an avenue for artists who identify as women to just express themselves. And some of the works are also exhibited at Makers Fair. So Kiwi from Lions Forge has given us a lot of space in his studio. You call it a studio, office?
Office.
Where he's been very generous in terms of food and electronic parts. So I think in terms of this talk, what I want to come out of it is the importance of having support systems and also highlighting that those kind of support systems like spaces and resources, they might not be always frictionless or easy or smooth going. Sometimes art making comes with processual struggle, and it's painful at times because you do have to negotiate with individuals who are personalities at their own right different from you, and then adding to that the roles of institutions in the whole ecology of art making and exhibition making. So I guess that's kind of like a general overview of my interests, and I want to pass it to Jennifer. Yeah.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. I tend to be quite soft, so wait for something if you cannot hear.
Maybe you should have your face like that.
No lah, it's okay. I try to be louder. I've been in the art scene for a long time. I didn't study art, and I decided to join to work in the arts because I felt that as a kind of outsider, there were skills that I could contribute to the arts community. And so I started working as an administrator, and then later I was doing curating, and then now I guess I'm more of an artist. So my interest in the arts is primarily because I believe that art can change the world. Not just as a way or as an avenue for expression, but also a way for people to learn together and for as an avenue for us to learn how to live together and to create a better world. So in my work, mostly nowadays, mostly we post museum. In our work, we organize, we look for spaces, we create spaces, and we organize events and opportunities for people to come in and do things together. So it could be kind of very, small commitment that not much commitment kind of opportunities like maybe the kitchen project where you come for 1-2 hours and you do something to help poor people, or it could be a more kind of intensive engagement in terms of making artwork together. So there's a whole range of things that we do as Post Museum. And I've also been in the last 5 years traveling quite a bit doing projects overseas. So with COVID, this has kind of stopped. As you know, we can't travel much anymore. So in the meantime, I guess in the last 1-2 years, I've been doing more work by myself and kind of with FAR especially, I think is an opportunity for us to really think about how women artists can kind of organize ourselves, or we can do things together and try to promote our own voices and create a more inclusive art scene. So so that's the work with FAR as well as my own work. I think it's a good opportunity for me to develop my own practice, especially with this upcoming exhibition. Working with technology is actually something that I'm not so interested in, but it's a good chance to kind of give it a try. So yeah, I think I'll stop here at the moment. We can maybe throw the floor open, or we can go another round.
Well, feel free to throw us any questions. Actually, when we talk about like democratizing aesthetics of art and democratizing spaces, what does come to mind when doing this art show is that actually is democratizing the access to resources. Because I know there's a lot of push for artists to go into tech, yeah. And really grateful for this opportunity to have this little small grant from National Arts Council, and then to have this partnership with NLB, yeah, to have been able to give us this chance to dabble, to dabble. Without this, and then when we try to calculate the cost of doing the art that we are going to be showing in the library itself, it would be prohibitive, like massively prohibitive for us to have been able to do this. So I think maybe I don't know whether it's a topic you all want to talk about that,
There's
how
a
to
chat.
then.
There's a chat. There's a message.
Oh no, yeah, I answered already.
All right.
Okay.
I guess the first kind of obvious thing to talk about is what democracy is for each of us. And I hope the audience watching right now can also chime in terms of how you would define democratic processes. So I guess I'll start. For me, democracy doesn't always mean that it's the right approach in terms of, especially when it comes to governing. Like when you go in depth about like politics and all that, it's not like you call certain countries democratic doesn't mean that they are purely, democratic in a way that everyone gets to participate. By the individual citizenships, like you have representative democracy and all that. So there's like different permutations of it already now, and And trying to define that today is very
In 1 hour.
Yeah, but like I think maybe we can maybe around with like each of us can give experiences of what you would kind of see as a exemplary, democratic approach.
For me, like to me, the art space is not necessarily like a lot of democracy or whichever. But to me, art space is very important for not just artists, but everyone coming together to actually have this community awareness, also to do something together. Like it's just that they're always restricted to some certain genres of art. Like, oh, you must be a painter, so you should have a session of painting. But to me, that's like it's not true in the sense. Music is also part of art. Performative is also part of art. So they always have this kind of like perception of like oh, you must be beautiful aesthetic paintings and you must only do that and not anything else. So to actually get a group of like-minded people to actually show thing together, art space is also very important. Like recently, I recently showed my work at Outreach Singapore, which is at Gilman Barracks. So
Outreach.
Yes. So it's not a very big space. As you can see, like from the space out of it, it's just that everyone is coming together. And that is the beauty of it. It's not just saying that, oh, open call. No, I don't like this. It's just up and all that. We face a lot of rejections. I mean, from what I experienced before. But this is a very different kind of thing. It just comes everything together like beautifully. Everyone is just looking at the words and conversations is there. Conversations is also very important to everyone in that room. There's a certain kind of energy. And then this project, studying artists especially, is one of the good things that actually come from today. And also you can notice the artists actually just come and just put. It's a very free flow and very kind of organic kind of presentation. And there are people actually playing the cello there. And artists,
performance,
yes,
there's music.
Performance, and then it's like, okay, we want to do something. So, oh, just come down at this tomorrow will be good. So I think this is the beauty of it of this space that in this like democracy that is like in these public spaces, and it's a very good space for regardless of whether you are a musician.
I mean, if I could jump in, that I think that was what we were trying to do with blackboard schemes as well. During COVID, we did this crazy 30 artist show at Substation. I think the idea stems out. I think Eunice, will talk more about the idea, and Jennifer also. We were all in that same show and also co-organizing it. Is that after COVID, it seemed that nothing could happen. All the shows were shut down, and artists were also relegated to Zoom calls and Zoom presentations. And I think it's kind of crazy, like to have done this show with 30 artists. But I think the whole idea was us giving the artists the choice to collaborate. So you could choose whoever you want to collaborate within FAR or outside of FAR. Pull these people in, and then we organized the show into 8 chapters. Some were interested in digital, some were interested to explore the cell, some were interested to do a cooking show. And I think in that sense, right, we were really trying to democratize, opportunity, because people just simply wanted to be together, simply wanted to show after the whole lockdown. I don't know, anyone want to jump in to talk more about that?
I think the There are different modes, different degrees of democracy if you really want to talk about it. But I think the main ideas of freedom, equality, and inclusivity is really, I think these three are the most important. And I think for Ramos, that's what we try to do, because we really try to include everyone's practice, everyone's interest. And it was more, I think we really try to make it more equal as well. Of course, nothing is really equal, but we try to treat each other as equals. I think that is the intention is really important as well as the process. So in whatever we are doing, I think we are trying to work out a system where things actually work while we are being democratic. I don't really agree that democracy is not the way. I think that is the way. I really don't think, top down authoritarianism is good. I think in many of our practices, we are really interested in hearing one another's voices. We're really interested in helping each other grow. I think in that way, we are also interested in being together in the space, right? So it's not about like I am better than you or like you have to listen to me. It's really we try to take into account one another's opinions. And we try to see the good in one another.
Yeah, so I wanted to pick up on what Jessie said about participation and it's just that different disciplines coming together. I think we're going to talk about substation a little bit, but I think that's what substation by Blackboard.
Yeah, but before we go into that, there are a couple of comments. Could I read them out? Maybe I read them out now. So Tam MT is asking, what is or are your most important spaces for democratizing arts, both physical and intangible spaces? What are the main constraints in Singapore?
I think you came for my workshop.
Yeah. Your most important spaces for democratizing arts, both physical and intangible.
So,
what are the main constraints?
Right, I mean, like, I want to bring in substation here because the space, this one physical building does not mean the same thing for most people. So, like, if you ask one artist from another, substation mean a different thing to them. So sometimes it might not, like, I might say that substation is a space for me to do my sculpture installation, and then you'd have a dance performer who would say that for her it's a place where safe practice can take place. It comes in terms of like different portions of art making. You'd have the production and then the pre-product. So in terms of like spaces and it all comes down to, I guess, what Tan Hao was saying about providing and making sure that space is consistently safe, not just like sometimes safe, so not just like, for certain artists it is safe and for certain artists not. So I think the consistency of safety in terms of practicing within a space is, at times, you need to be diligent in always keeping a particular, confines. Like you have, the post-punk people coming in there at night after all the shows is done and making the space their own. So like the transition, in terms of like in the morning, all the like early bird theater practitioners will be there, and then at night will be like the post-punks will be there. It changes. What I'm saying is it changes. A space as a safe space changes. And it's up to individual artists to make it a consistently safe space. And then comes in administrators as well. You have artistic directors and program managers who take care of you, who engage with you in terms of rules and engagement. So it's not just, you know, a one-sided community. It's holistic. You have different roles as well. Yeah, it's a work in progress and keeping spaces safe for democracy.
Yeah. Luke has a question, but I think Karen is responding to what you are saying. So maybe if I read that out first. Often there is a focus on access, but inclusivity is just as important, such that when you walk into a space, you do not feel excluded or put off. Also, how to create a sense of belonging without homogenizing individual identities, cultures, and experiences, contemporary art, and aesthetic literacy. Yes, I agree with that. As in, not just democratizing the creation of art, but also for the public to be able to engage with the artistic production in a welcoming space, i.e. the whole life cycle of the creative space. Oh, I totally agree. That's why when we did this show, we were very, I think you know, we trying to think about it from the audience perspective. Like really, you know, are we excluding the public from all our art conversations, like all the gallery shows and all that? You know, it's great. It's artists talking to artists, academics advancing ideas with other academics. But where do the public fit in? And how do we then bring them the general public into this type of conversations? Anything else you want to say?
The kind of space is very rare nowadays. Like having a inclusive, interdisciplinary. Oh, that was a hard word. Interdisciplinary space in terms of you have performers from the performing arts and visual artists, and you know, from the literary arts. In one space, that's super rare. Like, how many spaces can you see a convergence of that? You know?
Yeah.
I think you were talking about like participating in the energy of participation in the arts foundation as well.
Yeah, it's like I'm very actually surprised to see like. Like they just impromptu, just come in and then just doing this and then say, oh, I'm coming tomorrow. I'm like, oh, you know, because like usually of course they always have this kind of thing, right? And then they were like, okay, nobody is going to come in. But some the beauty of it, that's why I say that it's a very organic, free form, and then even like typing out poetry on typewriter. It's a kind of performative art. Plus, poetry is also part of the artwork as well. So I find it like, wow, you know, so many different artists all wanting to have the same mindset on the art space, but we all have different practices. But it's just like it just fits everything together. That's why I still find it like not just like we must have this contribution in one moment instead of just like, oh, you are a musician. Okay, I wouldn't want to. I just want to find a painter friend. But then I think it's like, why?
But I think most artists in the general sense that performing arts and visual arts, I think most artists are quite open to finding out other people's practices and maybe trying to do something generally, right? Yeah. So if there is a chance to, if people would like to do it, at least like for once or twice.
Yeah.
But that's why substation as a space worked in the past. Because it was completely open, everyone could come, you can meet You can be a punk person, you can be a
Yeah.
dancer, you can be a drummer, whatever. You
Yeah.
can be your chit chat, they can do something together. Nah. Right?
So
So
that is what I like.
it's really quite lacking nowadays.
Yeah, that's why you need to, that's why I was trying to tell, like, even like different people, like, like, doing murals or be it like, experiment noise musician or what. That area is, that's why, like, it's lacking, which is like, oh, no, I don't want to talk to you or what, like, why?
Yeah.
But then music is also part of the arts. Then they're like shining, not all 100%,
Yeah.
but at least 50% is really.
I think this conversation is leading into Luke's question, which is he's saying, mentioned about the importance of support structures. Not sure if the panel has used how support structures might be democratized to support.
Hello. I think when he's talking about support structures, he's talking about one maybe artists as co-collaborators, and then you would have, for example, the administrators, and then also people like Kiwi from Lions Watch. How many times did I have to say? And also your audience, I guess, like kind of trying to not in that outreach way, but like kind of like really we are our each other's audiences as well, like as artists and as friends, and cultivating that community which involves audiences, administrators, and our basically our support system. And how, so very, very good question, like how would you democratize?
I think it's really boils down to people with resources wanting to let other people into that space, into the decision making, and because a lot of times people start their own projects or start their own space, and then they have, I have this grand idea and I'm just going to push it out. But how about, when you say, I have the resources to start this thing, but I give over that control to somebody else. That is the difficult part, right?
And access is a good point. Of course, like we have partners like Thinker Minds and NLB, Brent, like being totally so generous with helping us building on knowledge and skills that we do not have. And I want to mention something like I heard from Fukian, like when Ray Ladenberg came to Singapore, like he was the only one with a camera, and he was basically all the artists were the one asking him, hey, can you video my shit, can you use your camera to for our performance or whatnot, document, and he will always like carry this huge, it wasn't like portable camera, it was like a huge camera he's always lugging around, and Ray is like so skinny. Do you have like any kind of memories about that? Because I know that Bogi, when he was here, Jose Tanzouris was here. He was very much engaged in asking artists to help him take photos of his works. As a performance artist, you can't like take photos while you're doing your own performative works, and basically kind of like a structure that does not ask for, what do you call that when they give you something and then no strings attached? Do you have any like memories about? I know that Tian went around with with his video camera as well, with Jeremy and all that. Like in terms of sharing,
I think in the 90s it was very much just a normal thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
sharing,
and it was a lot more community effort.
yeah. And there was no NAC or like proper funding back then. There was no
Yeah.
partners with
I think
NLB.
the government policy wasn't as structured as it is
Yeah,
now, and
yeah.
then so there was a lot of mutual aid, there was a lot of self-help, there was a lot of like, let's do something together that was outside of official system. Yeah, and I think that was really important in building up the scene actually. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean with the resources plan and all that in the around 2000 everything has changed. And also I think now there's a lot more focus, even when you're studying art school, there's a lot more focus on becoming a career artist, on becoming the next art star. When last time, of course, we wish we were. I mean, but we was a lot of like, let's do it together. It's a very different feeling.
That's very important because that's why the conversation start happening. Like doing things together instead of being egoistic and prideful, like, oh, I'm an art star. I mean, everyone wants to be an art star. But then the thing is, like, sometimes like reality just sinks in and then questions need to be around. So and then you're very scared of that person really like shutting you or what. But then it's still like our own self to actually really have the courage to do this. But then I think it's very important for us to come together. Yeah. I think this is a very good point.
I think that's why something like FAR, I mean, what we're trying to do now is quite
Then we
special.
have an equipment bank.
Yeah, you can promote.
Yeah. So this basically the blackboard scheme was a what I would call a para collective kind of organizing. It was a collective, and then we kind of group up. Since we have like 40-30 artists, we kind of also group ourselves consensusly in accordance to who we are comfortable working with, and sort of like a self-organized method within like an umbrella of a really self-organized method. And my inspiration for that was something outside of thematic, thematic-based open call approach to exhibition making, and more of like a process, collaborative collectivity, which is what most of the intention was for the individual artist anyway, because as an artist by yourself, you wouldn't really be able to do much in terms of tools, resources, network, and you kind of times 30 that with the amount of people that we had for that show. And we were hoping, like when we were having the meeting, like we were hoping to make this equipment bank where we would kind of ask each other for certain equipments that are like a bit crazy to own by yourself, like a projector, like yeah, the other day Tian lent me his very expensive Zoom recorder. Just basically you return it to me, like that's all the.
You know where you go.
There's no like good pause, yeah. How is sorry. I'm okay with it, yeah.
Oh, okay, so I was gonna say, yeah, so it's really, to me, it's really about trying to create a system where it's possible, right? Where this
And
kind
it's
of
still a
sharing.
system, you can call it a system, but
Yeah.
it's still very much organic and.
Yeah, I mean, a system is just a general word for
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's kind of relationship
Yeah,
and
yeah.
structure, right?
Yeah.
So it's really about the people.
Yeah.
And it's really about creating an opportunity for this kind of things to happen. And I think there is demand for it. So different people, even like outreach, they are like, trying different ways of
Yeah.
making something happen that is not so common maybe nowadays. But yeah, like substation really started in the 90s when this was kind of a common thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but right now it somehow is maybe like the only space that is supposedly doing it
Yeah.
consciously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to highlight that in terms of space, the subs gave like a third floor studio for us, which we're able to book and kind of use it as we wish, inviting people over. And
Yeah, but then that comes to the other issue of the people, right? There is the system that is in place, but the people who are running it, do they actually really agree with the system? Can they, put in the kind of emotional labor or whatever that is
Yeah.
required into the system? Because
Yeah.
a lot of what we're talking about is
Yeah.
emotional labor, right?
yeah,
That is on top of your paid artistic labor or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think what happened with the AAP, the Associate Artists Program, was that actually the people were not the right people to do it. Yeah, I mean, even though the artistic director really tried, but the other people couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So longer story for another day.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
this is a very important point, and tying it to what Jess said about having the right energy and knowing that willingly you put in, good energy intentionally. It's not like what I said earlier, it's not an easy negotiation for this kind of no strings attached kind of thing, because obviously you lend someone like this 5,000 worth of equipment and you expect them to uphold their bargain and taking care of what if you kind of damaged it, and then you have to deal with that negotiation in terms of it is emotional investment.
Yeah.
And I think artists and also on the side of the space and who administrates that space should understand that these are people that were relating to, not like a contract, It's not a piece of paper. You need to invest emotionally on it, with the right balance of rules of engagement, I would say.
Yeah, John had a follow-on question. It's also about inclusivity and equity of representation. And it's speaking about what you're following on what you are saying, like the kind of people that are running the spaces do make a big difference, right? So, but then in his question is how there can always be a risk of majority voices drowning out the voices of minority. So how do we ensure that we keep the spirit of inclusivity?
But that goes to the idea of a democracy, right? So basically, yes, majority has this rules in many ways, but you have to still have the idea of respect and the respect and the idea that everyone is equal. So you should offer other people the space or their voice should be heard as well. So I think a lot of it is like in our daily lives or whatever, in our jobs or whatever, it's easy to just do whatever we are doing. But I think we have to be conscious and we have to be
Yeah.
reflexive.
It's kind of mindfulness
Yeah.
when it comes to having this a kind of power. Like even in a group, right? Everyone is not so equal. Like some people would be able to get more opportunities, and then how do you share it, and or how do you share the space? How do you open it up? And yes, it takes a lot of emotional labor to do that. And if they choose to not do that, what are the mechanisms to then address this? Like because people still would hold on to them, and we can't change the management or can't change that easily.
Yeah.
But what are the mechanisms then to start opening people up or opening systems up
Yeah.
to more conversations?
This is the question, isn't it? Like, what in terms of our contracts, rules of engagements enough to bridge that gap between disappointments and misalignments in terms of communication? Are emails enough? Are like surveys, are they enough? It's more tedious and more time consuming, and it really requires legit like investment of labor to sit down and, hey, I thank you for taking care of this exhibition that we had, but here are some of the items that I want to just understand why it didn't go this way, and come to some sort of neutral ground, respectfully and mindfully, and coming from a place of wanting to understand instead of like wanting to blame or wanting to run away, like instead of like just double booking and like that's it, no explanation, not even like an email or it's not, you can't solve everything with one paper, isn't it? Like,
No, I think especially in the democratic system, it takes a lot of work, and people must be willing to put in the effort. Basically, it is very tedious.
Yeah.
And we have to admit that it's tedious and it's not always pleasant, but we still want to do it because this is the social contract, right? We want to treat each other equally. Yeah.
Actually, it boils down to this conversation I had recently also. We talk about privileges, right? And some people have. And I think at some point, some people, we see the different privileges, but maybe the person themselves, they don't see it. They will see like, do I really have that power? Like I feel, or I also feel oppressed, or I also feel like the system is weighing on me. But and then how to then address this incongruence, where do we on our own, do we recognize our power, or do we feel like, hey, no, everyone's equal? So how do we,
man, it's always a negotiation because like if you, being conscious that it's been an hour, like as well. Most people, for example, let's look at the Americans, like they would always kind of bring up that right to free speech. But then asserting free speech, there's a paradox where we want to assert free speech at the same time, sometimes it takes away speech from another party, another group of people. So for me, like I've internalized and like kind of surrendered to the idea that there's like, you're right, sometimes equality, there might not be such thing as equality. It's that limbo where like you can't really achieve it in terms of everyone being talking at the same time, having the same voice, and then it will just be white noise. It's basically constant negotiations and constant positioning, like what I said about space being, you have to take care of it consistently for it to be a safe space for everyone else. And who is that guy who always push the rock?
PG, yeah.
No, push up the rock one, Sisyphus, something like that.
Oh.
Sisyphus.
Okay. Sisyphus.
Yeah.
We're gonna end.
Okay. Well, before we end, we do have one more question. Okay. Let me go back to it. Okay. Tam is asking, right, architectural spaces which already encompass art forms and cultures in many ways. How can artists help enhance the general public to really feel or appreciate them better?
Nice, that's a nice question.
Architecture. This is what for my past work trying to do, like the appreciation of architectural spaces, but mostly I think now is more on, you can say, tours or walks that is around Singapore, which is in for this one, because for me it's appreciation of architectural space, and every situation that you walk into will lead you to another kind of memory. So if it triggers the memory, it will actually have this kind of like, you wanted to do this, and then I wanted to bring forward to the public to see that, oh, how about say a brutalist, say Golden Mile. As we all know, previously the government wanted to tear down Golden Mile complex, which is at that time the
There was a deadline.
There was a very deadline. So I think it's better. It's part of everyone's memories, you know, like going there and
Memory as architecture as well.
yeah, architecture as well. So to bring forward to all this it's still a long way to go, and unless if you see like the conversations between people wanting to bring forward, you know, with no like, oh, you know, just some people like, is Golden Mile complex a brutalist building? No, I just find it very ugly. And then I'm like, yeah, they always, it's a general like, it's just ugly. I'm like, no, it's different. It's just like everyone's memory of this building, and then that's like many years has been like what Singapore girls, but it's been quite a lot of like people protesting, like wanting to keep the building as part of the beauty preservation. As I said earlier, many old buildings being torn down and new buildings being built up. Then it's just like, what's the point of like all these new buildings or maybe bank buildings or what? Because Singapore is not a very big land, it's actually a small dot, and so much has been like wasted in all this. So yeah.
The library will be closing in 13 minutes. If you wish to borrow books, we advise you to do so now.
So
at the
that's
borrowing
about it.
station, or via the NLP.
I like that walking is a very, I think, you know, if I'm not busy, I would have gone to that Paul's Museum, forest bathing. But walking is a very powerful act that you can do to remap sites that have historical weight, societal weight in themselves. And I super agree with what you said. Walking has a whole theory about it, right? Like very much discussed philosophically, and all the philosophers like walk around, kind of like romanticize the act of walking. It's a very mundane, routine, everyday exercise, but it's super powerful At so sad, like nowadays only, especially during the lockdown. I had the privilege of walking around during lockdown. And that was my work. You have anything to add on?
I want to say that actually it's okay that the thing that is ugly. Yeah, I think
Ruthless.
everyone has different, idea of what is beautiful and ugly. Of course, there is the very common idea of what's beautiful and what's ugly. And actually, I think that it doesn't appreciating architecture or any artwork for whatever. It doesn't have to be a totally aesthetic or intellectual exercise. Right? Sometimes it is just an instinctual reaction. But I think for buildings and architecture, especially, it is the embodiment of it, right? You have a body, you are not just a brain. So we have a body, you walk into this space, maybe you really like that it's it's got a very airy space, or it's like the aircon is very cool or whatever. It doesn't, you don't actually need to know what kind of building this is or whether you find it ugly or beautiful. It's just your body in this space already has an effect, right? Yeah. And so I don't think that it's actually a need to get more people to appreciate architecture, because that's not really what architecture is for. Yeah. That's
It's
just
like a
my
very
point.
instinct.
Yeah, because like in your daily life, you walk through the hawker center or you walk through a
Yeah.
shopping mall, there is a very embodied experience.
Yeah.
It doesn't have, you don't have to think, oh, this is so beautiful. Or, It's just like, you're already there.
Yeah, it's like you're there, and then it's just like, yes, it's hot or whatever, but this is still like a hawker center, so you're not trying to be like romanticize that, oh, this
No lah.
It's built by, I don't know whoever.
It's like I want to, wow, the char kway teow there is like the good one, okay.
We do have two, and we have one to save the memory when it comes to conservation, things like that.
Then you're talking about history and memory. It's a different, it's a different kind of issue from actually appreciating the aesthetics. Yeah.
But I like that, like walking as a corporal geographic reading of spaces and forms and architecture, and then every time you walk past the same area, it doesn't mean the same thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't look the same time of the day. That's a good question.
Okay. And with that, and also the library is going to be closing soon. Shall we end the session? Is there any other questions? Anyone
Thank
would
you
like
so
to
much, guys.
throw at us before we leave for the day?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come to see our show.
Yes, come to
Be
see our
around the building so you can.
Jurong
appreciate
Library.
Yeah.
Right, so Veronica, can you run through with us again what are the show details for Blip in Time?
Okay, let me do that. Okay, I'll go back to the
It's behind you actually, so back.
Are you gonna save the chat? I wanna see them.
Yeah, I'm saving. I have been saving the chat into a file. Hey, where is it? Sorry. There you go. So the Blip in Time is going to be happening at the Jurong Library from the 1st to the 14th of April. And we actually would be conducting okay, I cannot say that we're conducting tours, sorry. But if you would like to have a kind of guided experience, please feel free to contact any of us and we can arrange to do so. Yeah. Go to the discussion session section of the events page if you can, and you will find, yes, and you can follow our journey there. Okay, sorry, the connection is a bit slow, but you will be able to see our full journey. Our photo album is there, and how the artists have come together and learned and done different things together. And yeah, we will have a show on the 1st of April, so please come. I'm rambling already, very tired.
1st to 14th.
And I haven't had dinner.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. See you soon.
Right, so I'm gonna pause the recording here. Right, so thank you.